Okay. So, hello everyone, and today's topic, what I'm going to cover up is about women's health. This topic is very, very close to me, and I'm sure close to a lot of young female homeopaths over here. And we'll see how beautifully we can integrate homeopathy with women's health. And we can go ahead and see what are the important things when we talk about women's health, what are the points that we need to cover, etc. So first and foremost, the most important thing is when we talk about women's health, we are dealing with people from different age groups, different backgrounds, right from menstruating age till their menopause, and a lot of host of issues come up in this. Something related to menses like PCOS, infertility, menopause. A lot of hormonal issues also come up like thyroid, diabetes, cancers, infections like PID and UTI. I think if I start stating all the possible infections that happen or all the possible diseases or illnesses that come along with a lady, I think we'll spend the next 2 hours just naming them. But there are very important aspects apart from these physical ones, and those are the different options which come in their life and different career changes, physiological changes during pregnancy, the changes in their life after marriage, and a lot of psychosomatic illnesses set in after that. So the most important thing that we need to keep in mind is when we are dealing with such cases is there is the whole story behind that person, whole story. And we need to make sure that we cover each and every aspect of that story while we understand. So just let me, yeah. So let's go ahead and see. So few case taking tips that I'd like to tell you. First one is the most important thing in like basic case taking, we all are aware of what are the things that we are supposed to do. But in such cases, one of the most important thing that we need to take care is about the confidentiality of the patient. That's very, very important. Whoever the patient may be accompanied with, whoever they come with, we have to make sure that we give them that space where they can freely tell us anything and everything that is there. So that is very important. Like, for example, I can just give you one example where a young girl around 14, 15 years old came to my clinic with her mother. And the presenting thing was she was sitting quiet, very quiet, looking down. And the mother was like, my daughter is a very shy person. She hardly talks. And the mother started describing her complaint. I believe she had come up with some skin issues. And while understanding, the mother said something which I don't recollect now, but I realized that the girl just nodded and said no. And I realized there is something that is not fitting over there. What the mother is saying, what the child is reacting like, something is not fitting. So I asked the mother, okay, can I talk to the child alone? Means can I talk to the girl alone? I would like to speak to her. Mother said, no, no, she's totally okay with me being there. Are you not, beta? She's like, no, no, mom, I'm totally okay. You can be here. And that added on to something which was not fitting. And I had to explain to the mother, which you can do to most of your patients, that it's not about you, even if the patient is comfortable. It's about our procedure where we would like to have a one-on-one. The moment the mother went out of the room, you won't believe the entire case changed. It was like a totally different person for me. The girl was like, thank you, doctor. And then she went on describing of how she feels very oppressed in her own house, where her Facebook, her WhatsApp, everything is monitored and everything is checked. And she was only 14, but she was already forced into, getting engaged to somebody and to get married. And the reaction of all of this was, she's like, I live a very good life, doctor. I go out, I party with my friends, I enjoy with my friends. I take weed, smoking, alcohol, you name it, doctor, and I do it all. Now you imagine when the mother was sitting there, what type of picture were you getting? It was almost like a pulsatilla girl sitting in front of you. The mother said also she weeps so much. And the moment the mother went out, you see a completely new and a different picture. And this gives you an idea of how this confidentiality, of how this one-on-one conversation can change. A lot of people come up with their husbands where there is history of abuse, etc. So you need to really make sure that you have this confidentiality, no matter what age group they come with. You need to take a complete menstrual history. That's the second point. Why is this so important? Even if a female comes with the age of 55, make sure that you take a complete menstrual history of how it started, what were the complaints, how did she get into menopause. This gives you a lot of characteristic symptoms on a very different levels. Their mind state plays a very important role, mainly about their changes in behavior before and after marriage, before and after delivery. People go through a lot of changes in life, and these changes which we're talking about really change them sometime as a person. a girl who was like the youngest in the house and enjoying life after marriage becomes the eldest daughter-in-law and have a lot of responsibility to take. So you see that, there's a lot of shift in who she is, how she reacts, how she deals. A lot of people are not very comfortable about describing their sexual history, but you should make sure that once you have taken the enough case and you have the confidence of the patient, you should make sure that you inquire in detail about this as well. There was one patient who never mentioned about her sexual history, but she kept coming to me with recurrent UTIs. And one day, when asking her about her thing, she said, "Whenever I have intercourse with my husband against my wish, the next morning I know I'm going to get down with a UTI." So there are a few important aspects which come out across there as well. Basically, with all these things, you need to take a complete summary of who she is, how her life is, what has she gone through. These play a very important role. Just let me see. Okay. So let's understand the few cases. To keep the session short, we'll just do two cases. So when we talk about women's health and homeopathy, I think the first and foremost thing which is closest to all of us is about PCOS. I think that's one of the most common complaint. I believe 8 out of every 10 women come out with PCOS and come to our clinics for that. As we all know, what is PCOS? It's a hormonal disorder which happens to women in their reproductive age. And few symptoms are like absence of menses, putting on weight, irregular menses, acanthosis nigricans, hair on chin, complications like infertility, diabetes, depression. Now, whenever a patient comes to you with any complaint, no matter what the pathology is, you have to make sure that proper investigations are done. Your clinical knowledge about that subject has to be really thorough. You should know what are the other system of medicine, what medicines would be given as treatment, what is the procedure, when is the time when things are going to go into a complication. These things have to be very, very clear with you. Once this is clear, the patient will be very, very confident, because if a patient comes to you and say, I'm taking metformin, and if you're not aware that metformin is actually given as a treatment of PCOS, you're going to be creating a blunder out there. So make sure that your clinical knowledge is very, very thorough in that part. So let's go ahead and see this case. Yashika, I just wanted to confirm, is my camera also visible? Because I can't see anything.
Ma'am, yes, it's perfectly fine.
Okay. Okay, so this is a case of a 25-year-old girl. She came to me with presenting complaints of irregular menses, which had started 3 years back. And she came to me and she said, I have irregular and a lot of painful menses. And what had happened is she started missing menses. 1 month she used to get, next month she used to not get, and few months she only had blood and urination and no, bleeding at all. And then she started putting on weight, developed acne. And her mother took her for investigation, and on reports it said that it's a case of PCOS which sits in the ovary. Few other confirmation symptoms were she developed hair on her chin, acanthosis nigricans. So whenever such case comes to you, the first and most important thing is, in PCOS, most of them will tell you similar set of symptoms, and then you'll come up with similar remedy. So if you really want to find out what is characteristic about this person, what you need to do is, you need to take the menstrual history in detail, like whatever you can. So let's see what is over here. She had got menarche in the 7th grade, and she had a lot of dysmenorrhea, lot of pain. She had to take, medicines, allopathic medicines every time that she had. And the first 2 days were very, very painful. Hot fermentation used to help her, and her skin used to throw up a lot before menses. And since the last 3 years, her menses have been very, very irregular. She also had excessive leukorrhea before menses. One of the characteristic thing in her case was her abdomen used to get very, very distended before menses, and she used to also feel very, very constipated. Like most of the common symptoms in PCOS, she also had a lot of PMS, irritability, mood swings. So you see in this case, what do we see is, we see that there are characteristics at all level. What happens before menses, what happens during menses, and we have completed the menstrual history along. We have modalities as well. Once you have covered this aspect, go ahead and understand the other symptoms. In her skin, she said that her face was always greasy. She had flat warts on her, mainly on her face, acne on back, which were pustular and painful, and even blackheads. Now, if you understand, few of these symptoms are a part of her having hormonal imbalances and PCOS. Make sure that even if a patient comes with one complaint, you ask all the other aspects as well, even the past history, that that's a very important role. She had on and off episodes of severe acidity, heartburn, where she used to feel very pukish. They used to happen mainly at night and used to feel better by vomiting. In past, she had got her tonsillectomy done. She craved for Thai food, aversion to sweet, and mainly to meat. And like I said, in stools, they were constipated before menses. So let's understand a bit about her now that we have taken, once you take out all the menstrual symptoms, all the physical, let's understand a bit about her. So it was very interesting. This case was that when this girl came to me, she had come along with her mother, and it looked like, the first impression looked like she was not very much interested in where she is. So every question that I asked her, whether it was craving or whether it was dreams or fears or anything, I had to really probe a lot. And one of the major reasons is because she kept saying in everything, I don't know, doctor, I've been so busy. That was somewhere the common reply that I got in most of the questions. I had to actually explain to her what homeopathy is, why we need it. And this is exactly the opposite today. Today, when I speak to this patient, she's completely an opposite person. But at that moment, everything was like, I'm very busy. I didn't get time to think about this. I have never noticed this. I'm very busy. And this was the general feeling. It didn't seem like that she was very, very concerned about her health, not getting menses. And her mother had a similar history who was very worried that, she'll have to be on OC pills all her life and how will it go? The mother said she loves keeping herself busy. Any work you give, she wants to be busy and keep doing it every time. Either she's studying, either she's doing her project. She was an engineer, so she was in the final year of engineering, so she wants to do something about that. She kept doing it again and again. And when you ask her why is this being busy so important for you, she said, I can never sit idle, doctor. I can never. If I am like this, I start thinking about a lot of my complaints, and I just don't feel good. When I'm occupied, when I'm busy, when I'm doing things, my health is in its perfect state. I feel very, very nice. When you ask her more about her, she says, when exams come, I get very, very competitive because I have a lot of expectations from myself. So she puts a lot of pressure on herself. These are the times mainly when she used to get her acidity episode. She wanted to excel and do very good. Another important aspect about her case, which is that till date, is she loved any form of physical exercise. It was like if she had to see me at 7:30 and her class is also at 7:30, she would actually call me and request, doctor, can you see me a bit early? She would love doing, going to the gym. She would love dancing and go to the Zumba. Any physical, movement or exercise you tell her, and she is into it. She says like that keeps my mind occupied. I don't think about anything. It's like a stress buster for me. Even reading books was one of her hobbies, but I can really, say that going for Zumba and gym was the main one. Like till date, I think the lockdown is not going very well for her because she's missing out to a lot of things. The other things about her case in her dreams, she described the multiple dreams, but the only significant things in the dream, the theme that ran along was everything what she tried to do was she's not able to do or it was unsuccessfully completed in dream. She had the fears of not being understood, not doing well, and also death of people, and that had happened post her grandfather's death. She was very cranky before menses, very irritable, and in every angle she felt, I just can't express myself. So you see how after completing the menstrual part, we go ahead and see each and every aspect about dreams, fears, generalities. Make sure you try to find characteristics at all levels. You may or may not, but it's very important that you venture into every zone of the patient's life and try to know it. One major setback in her life, which I would like to just say in short, this is not something which she told me during her first consultation. There was something very funny which happened after her first consultation. So this patient gave me entire case, took medicines, and after 15 days called me, the doctor, I am going ahead, meeting a gynac, and I'm going to start OC pills. He said, okay, as we all know, I've had given enough time, explained to her, but if it's still a patient's decision, you should really let them go ahead. And that's what I told her, okay, fine. But immediately after starting OC pills, within a few days, she came back and she said, my body just can't take this. It really just can't take this. And I would just really like to stick to this system of medicine. And please help me out. She started feeling very nausea and a lot of complications started. So much later in her case, she when she developed the confidence and when she could trust me, she explained about one major setback in her life. The main emotion was that it was with a friend and she was really taken aback. She felt betrayal, upset, depressed. And she felt that she wants to just cut off from that zone of friends. I don't want to be talking to them. I don't want to be seeing them. That was her response to it. Initially, that hurt, like, how an actor would feel depressed, hurt, brooding. But later she just wanted to detach herself from there. And that detachment again came in a form of where she would like to keep herself busy, do activities. That is what she loved. So you can see this is her report before and during the treatment. As you see, it says the follicular cyst measuring 29 mm into 17 mm, and both the ovaries are enlarged. And this was during the treatment, as you see, it was like during the treatment, it had already started regressing. And I'll show you the reports, which are the current reports as well. So what do we understand? What are the main things in her case? Main things that you can think of. Maybe if you all can write in the chat box, I can see. What do you understand? What are the aspects of the case that you would like to talk over here? Anybody? Screen is not clear. Okay. Anybody would like to say anything about the case? Not in touch with her emotions, occupied. Okay. Somebody has suggested aurum natmure. Leucorrhea before menses, betrays feeling. Okay. Sepia. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and see. Very good suggestions, whatever you all have written so far. Let's go ahead and see this. Oh, where did the screen go? Okay. So as we see, the main sphere of action, the main thing in her case revolved around her menses, her PCOS, her hormonal imbalances. Most of the complaints, like you all also wrote that, she had irritability before. A lot of symptoms revolved around that. But the main symptom, which somebody very nicely pointed out in the chat box as well, which we cannot ignore in her case, was how she liked to keep herself busy in everything, doing something or the other every time. Why? Because that used to keep her better. It was like a stress buster. And as we see in different aspects of her life that we saw, the main feeling was she would detach, a sort of indifference towards everything, not like to be in that zone. So let's understand how we can translate this into rubrics. So normally what I do is whatever characteristic symptoms or whatever leading symptoms I get, I put all of them into repertory. So like she said, the menses were very, very painful. Leucorrhea menses before. Female tumors ovaries, that means cyst in the ovaries. Menses irregular. One characteristic thing was rectum, constipation, menses during. And before. This was very characteristic in her. She felt totally bloated. Face greasy, face swart, meat aversion. I took meat aversion as a characteristic because she came from a family which was a hardcore non-vegetarians. Occupation diversion ameliorates. This is exactly what she was saying. I want to keep myself busy. It's like a stress buster so that I don't think of my complaints and I feel better. You can also take it like you see down. You can also take the rubric busy. Dance desire to. Yes, she had fear of dark, anger from contradiction, and a sort of indifference towards everything. These were the main leading thing. And I believe when you put all of this and when you see the case, it becomes a very simple case. Once you get the crux of the case, the remedy is very, very obvious and very, very sure. Like somebody already pointed out in the chat box, yes, the few remedies that came up are sepia, silica, calcarea, thuja. She had warts on face, you can think of thuja. She had fear of dark, you can think of calcarea. But if you see right from her menstrual complaints, still her mental emotions, her mind state, her reactions, her aversions, sepia runs through very strong. If you see the rubric over here, occupation, diversion, ameliorates, you see how strongly sepia is. Can you see that? And also indifference, apathy of sepia is something that we all were aware of. Dance desire to is almost like a confirmatory symptom that we have for sepia. So yes, this patient was given sepia. She was given sepia 1M and it was followed by sepia 0/1 in her follow-ups. I give LM1 in pathological cases, most of the cases where there is a progressing pathology or hormonal imbalances. So she was given sepia 1M followed by sepia 0/1. Like I said, in 15 days she had gone and then she came back. Now what was interesting in this case is she worked very hard on herself. I believe not only the medicine but her lifestyle change really helped her. She started going, she was very fond of exercise, so that became like a boon. She lost weight, she started going to the gym, she did her things very regularly, and mainly she understood the system of medicine or what it is. A lot of time patients come to us and like, doctor abhi tak theek nahi hua, doctor what is happening. I believe in all the course of treatment she just came, took her medicines, every time asked me when is the next time I need to investigate. And whenever she investigated, came up with the investigations, yes, there was, what, it's not like you take a medicine and tomorrow your PCOS is gone. Yes, you start feeling symptoms like your menses start to get regular, your PMS symptoms start to go, but the cyst takes the time to go. It takes close to a year or 2 years in most of the cases. So she would come every time. Her reports were very encouraging because every report we did every 6 monthly was, it showed regression, as you already saw in the report. And it was very encouraging. Her menses started getting regular. And finally, that you see the report of a year, you see that her ovaries are totally fine, and the sonographic evidence consists of no polycystic ovarian disease. So you see she comes with the disease, you see it regressing, and then you see how it is totally normal. And this is normal since more than 6 months as of now. And today she's totally okay. Just the lockdown doesn't go well with her, as you understand that, she needs to be occupied. She needs to be doing something. So once you get, the main symptoms, it becomes very beautiful and very easy. She had written a small thing for me. I'll just read out in short so that you understand how the patient has also helped herself. She had irregular menstrual cycle for quite some years, and when she was in final degree, she got diagnosed with PCOS. She went to the best of the doctors, took the birth control pills. Her body completely rejected them. She felt nauseous, and her mother also had the same history, and she knew that this is a permanent solution. When she came to me, she was convinced that homeopathy would treat it, and it's just she has to give time. So this is very important when patients come to you with PCOS or something. You need to tell them that they need to give you time. If in the next second month, if a patient does not get menses and drops out, it's not a magic. It's not a magic that you take a medicine and next time you'll have it. So this has to be explained to them that it's a long journey. Ouch. Okay. She started working out, and every 6 months we would track the report. And now she's totally, symptom free. And this is the first time she feels that, since she started menstruating, that her period cycle has become regular. And she says that she finds this approach where everyone's body is different very nice, and she can explain, and the roller coaster of her emotions and her body, everything it seems perfect, and she can really count on to somebody. So the entire idea of reading this was a lot of cases in women's health and gynec. I have heard one common thing is once they get better, or even if they don't, they say, doctor, we could speak out to you. Doctor, we could express what we are feeling. Doctor, you could hear us out. Like, if you see in the last she's written, I'm going to keep troubling you always. This is the feeling which actually makes them feel really well. So when a patient comes, you don't have to see PCOS. Okay, I have to give this remedy, fibroid, I have to give the Thuja. No, you have to go ahead and firstly talk to them and understand what they're going. That is itself very healing and therapeutic. Try to have a different approach in every case, but try to remember that one thing is you need to understand, they need to express themselves completely. That will make them much, much better. And obviously, like she said, she did those changes. Those are important aspects. So let's go ahead and see one more case. And this case is of infertility. Now, another thing, the most common complications of PCOS goes into infertility. Now, a lot of patients come to me and say, I think, doctor, I'm suffering from infertility and I should go for an IVF. Now, you need to understand, how do you define infertility? So there were a few patients who came to me at the age of 24. She said, I'm trying since 3 months, doctor, but I'm not able to get pregnant. Now, you need to know that these are cases where you cannot term this in infertility. You need to be giving them, first and foremost, before treatment, right techniques, right methods, counseling them about other things. These are more important roles. But yes, in this case, this patient could not conceive for 7 long years after marriage. And that is why you term something like that as, this is definitely a case of infertility. So when a patient comes to you with infertility, even before you take the case history, make sure that you have the first-hand information. By first-hand information, I mean, for example, what are the causes? What is their age? If somebody comes to you and say, I'm 40 and I'm infertile, you have to know what you're dealing with. So first, this patient came to us. When she came to us, she was 29 years old. She had cyst in the left ovary since the age of 16. By the time she came to us, both the ovaries were bulky. But what was characteristic is she had cyst in the left ovary since she was 16 years old. She was married and she tried to conceive for 7 years. She came from a family in which kids are born immediately, they don't use precaution, or she wanted a kid immediately after marriage, and the husband and family. So imagine what this woman has gone through for 7 years, where she kept trying and trying and kept failing. Also, you have to remember that when such cases come to you, they have already been to a lot of doctors. So she had been to various homeopath, gynecologists. Even her laparoscopy was done in 2014. So she has done it all. And then she's come to you. Now, in this case, a few advantages that you have to pick up this case is that her age, 29 years old, this is one thing. And what else will you do? Like if I ask you if this case has come to you, even before you take the entire case, what would be your approach? Maybe I can see in chat box. What are the things which are very important in this case? Anybody? Anyone? What approach would you do? What do you think is very important aspect of this case? I'll just try to upload my PPT again in the meanwhile. I'll keep it first so that it's clear. Sexual history, okay. Find out the cause, very good. That is one of the most important thing. What else? Family history, very nice. Menstrual history and sexual history. Try to collect childhood history, age of patient, menstrual history and ovular history, cause, change of family after marriage, very good. Emotional stress, excellent. Medications which she's on, superb. So all of you are saying the most important things, but everybody's missing on one very important thing. 7 years she is not conceived. What is the most important thing that you need to know? Apart from her investigations and her report, what is the second most important thing that is very important in this case? Husband's report. Yes, Varsha, that's the perfect answer. That's one very important thing. You can't be starting any treatment till you're not totally aware of what's happening. In these type of cases, make sure that she can express to you, because 7 years you have no idea what all emotional trauma she's gone through. All the investigation reports. If there is an ovarian block, what is exactly happening. You need to have the reports in hand before you take the case. And like one of the participants wrote, husband's history. If the husband's sperm count is 0, no matter what you do, you can't get her pregnant. So you have to know that whether you need to treat both the couples together or only the wife needs treatment. In our society, a lot of time males do not go for investigation, say everything is okay with us, you treat her. But in spite of that, kindly insist on the latest sperm count report to see if everything is fine. That plays a very important role. So make sure these things are there. And also, again, in this case, I would again emphasize on the confidentiality and the privacy with the patient. That's because a lot of time they go through 7 years, a lot of time domestic issues are there with family and with pressure, and they completely lose touch of who they are. So this is very important. So whatever aspects, others had also written sexual history and everything, let's go ahead and understand how we took this case in every aspect. So she had irregular menses right from her menarche, and as we see that she had already a cyst, and the cycle was of 40 to 45 days. They were extremely painful. She felt like something is rotating and she had to take painkiller. So you see something similar from again the previous case. Whatever cases of PCOS we see, we find that few things are very, very common. The flow was extremely profuse. She had to lie down and could not even move. And there were a lot of mood swings before menses. There were no other characteristics from her menstrual history point of view. When we go ahead and see in her past illnesses from childhood till now, because 16 years developing an ovarian cyst is not something that we commonly see. So since she got married, she said she's got a lot of illness. She got malaria once, she got typhoid twice, she even have TB of chest, and she had to take AKT for that in the past. In fact, I believe in 2014 when her laparoscopy was done, and the report also showed some cells over there in the fluid, which pointed out towards the TB of the chest. I'm not sure if she had it during that same time or it was something that came up later. And she feels that after her marriage, the entire life schedule had changed. But she says this is okay. Okay, I have not conceived for 7. All this is okay. But what troubles me the most is my family doctor is somebody who I don't understand, doctor. I said, what happened? She says, he told me I will never conceive. He told me I will never conceive. Since then, I am so depressed. I don't know what to do. And it's like she kept brooding over it and remembering that, oh, I went to that family doctor and he said, oh, you have PCOS, you'll never conceive. I am so upset since then, doctor. It's taken a toll on me. And she'll go back to the situation of when the family doctor said that she cannot conceive, how family reacted, how her husband reacted, how the others pressurized her. And she kept going back to those events and thinking, and troubling herself. She says, all this so much pressure I have to, give a child. I feel so much stress and pressure is making me fall one after the other. And from the time I'm married, I'm not giving a child and I'm getting one disease after the other. And everybody keeps pressurizing me. They'll take me to saints, they'll take me to temples, mosque, every possible place you name it, doctor. They'll keep changing doctors also. And to be honest, doctor, they've got me here also to you. So you understand that the patient had not very willingly come, and this entire thing, 7 years, had taken a real toll on her mind state. And this is something you need to really understand well. One doctor said you have PCOD and such women never get children. How can she say so? Means she's a gynecologist. Why is she sitting there, doctor? This is what she said? how much my extended family got affected. Yes, my immediate family was supporting, but everybody, everywhere you go, bacha nahi hua, bacha nahi hua, bacha nahi hua. She felt, I want to die and I want to run away. I want to hang myself. I cannot take this pressure. And because of all this, one very interesting thing that happened in her life is she got total aversion to sex and intercourse with the partner. Total aversion. She said, my husband is very nice. To be like right now, doctor, when I'm talking to him, I know he's nice. I know he cares. But doctor, at that time when he comes close to me, I feel no, you're coming for a baby. I don't want anything. So even if he comes to love me, even if he comes to, I just hate it. That entire process of getting one with the partner, intercourse or coition, I just feel it is just to have a baby and I can't give him. I even told him, why don't you go and get married to somebody else? I get angry and irritated on everything. She keeps shouting at the husband, and she feels that she's just taking pressure of everybody and fighting. And like I said, she does not even sleep or have any physical intimacy. So another aspect you have to understand is if they don't, have proper intimacy during the ovulation period, the chances are anyways going to be less. So she took this thing as an entire procedure. Okay, this is my ovulation week. He can come, he can do. And this is how it was for her. It was not since the beginning, but yes, 7 years was a long time. No one understands me. I also want a kid. I want to be a mother. Stand in my place and see. You're just forcing me. Bacha nahi hai, bacha nahi hai, bacha nahi hai. It's not that I am, purposely not conceiving. It's not happening. I'm doing all the doctors I'm doing. And she became very hyper while talking. She's like, I feel so suffocated, doctor, as if something is stuck in my throat. And that's why I'm talking so much to you, doctor. That's why I'm going on. I just feel it was all inside me. Other aspects in the case was this grief was there obviously since a long time. It kept on to her 7 years. It was only, her life was only about whether she can have a kid or no. She was extremely religious. She kept brooding in a way that she kept thinking. She kept going back to the time and she kept thinking of, oh, she said that one said that time. And it kept affecting her every time. And in this, she would be very, very quarrelsome. The husband says that I say anything, doctor, means anything. Any harmless words, she'll start fighting. She had dreams of death of people and of ghosts. She says, my husband loves and cares a lot, but I feel very angry. I feel I need this attention all the time. I feel I want everything. I want attention. I want everything. Like the husband said, I told you, the smallest thing he says, it can end up into a fight. Fears, she couldn't see blood. She couldn't see blood of her own menstrual blood. She couldn't, she was again from a very hardcore non-vegetarian family, but she couldn't never make meat or cook meat because she couldn't see the blood. She could eat it, she said at times, but she couldn't make it because she couldn't see blood. She just cannot. Like she said, I hate chicken and mutton because I have to see blood. I cannot even see it. That much is the hatred that I have towards it. Generals craving for spicy pani puri. Pani puri something is for people who have not tasted pani puri. It's something of a sweet and spicy, sweet sour and spicy combination. Aversion to non-veg, chicken, mutton. That's only because she cannot see the blood. Not very thirsty and perspiration mainly on the face and head. So you see, these were the reports of 2010, where before she came to us something around 2015 and 2016 start. You see that she had bulky ovaries at that time, PCOD or DUB, and irregular menses. And this was the report from the gynecologist. And I have also attached the report. This you see is where she got pregnant within few months of her treatment. And you see that the expected due date was somewhere around, I think she had conceived in 2017 start. Yes, you see that the expected EDD was somewhere around the first week of Jan 2017. We'll go ahead and see what all happened. But what do you understand from this case? Also, I would like to say when we started treatment, within 2 months, she had conceived, but it was an ectopic pregnancy. I still remember this. She was she had so much trust because after 7 years she conceived. She had so much trust that she's like, doctor, you give medicine. I'm sure this ectopic will also be successful. You have to really go ahead and explain to them that, what is an ectopic pregnancy and everything. And obviously after that ectopic pregnancy, she once again conceived. And as you see the reports here. But can you tell me, what is your approach? What is important in this? Okay, suppression of emotions. Pulsatilla, Natromure, Pulsatilla, sepia again, Kali group, Medorinum, Platina. Okay. What else? What other approaches? What are the things that you understand are the most important in her case? Okay, so I finally managed to get this. So I think I'll stop this. And we start here so the PPT is more visible to all of you. Just give me a second. Okay. So yes, few important things like you'll have written pulsatile, etc. Now we have to understand that what do we understand about this lady? Okay, one, she had PCOS, she had ovaries, cyst in the ovaries, and she couldn't conceive. That was one thing. Another thing is what we understand is she was so, everything had become such an issue for her. Every sort of emotion, every harmless word, every trifle would really aggravate her. Either she would cry, either she would weep, either she would get irritable, and every small thing was a big emotion for her. Few characteristics that we see, that she had fear where she couldn't see blood, aversion to meat, etc. So, like we see, one of the most important thing which we saw in the case, she said, I can't express myself. I really can't. She kept dwelling on whatever they said. Okay, that doctor said this, and she kept dwelling on those in a way of brooding. Irritability over trifles, anger over trifles. Everything in was her case was about trifles. Like, if the husband really wanted to leave her, it was 7 years he would have left her. If the mother-in-law really had a problem so much and was not supportive, it would have been more obvious. But even after 7 years, they were very supportive to her. They were helping her. But for her, all these emotions had become to the brim. It was too much for her to take. Other symptoms were dreams of death, dreams of ghosts, fear of diseases, silent grief, quarrelsome and scolding, religious tendency, and weeping again with trifles. I also took her menstrual history, where the menses were absent, irregular, painful, profuse, and the cyst in the ovary, five most common things which come with every PCOD. But what was characteristic in her case was the aversion that she had towards meat, almost that she couldn't even think about it. And trust me, when I analyzed this case, the remedy that came is something not very commonly we think of in case of hormonal imbalances, or in case of PCOS, or in case of infertility. So when this remedy came up on my repertory sheet, I had to really look up, go to the Materia Medica and read about it. So any guesses so far? Sabina, Natromure, harmless words offend. Okay. Society taboos, Staphylos agria. Okay, let's see. So the remedy is not here in the chat box, at least I can see. And yes, like I said, it's not a very commonly given remedy. So the remedy which came up was graphitis. Now, why graphitis? What is graphitis all about? In graphitis, there is a lot of things where every trifle, every emotion that you say, smallest things affects them. They really want, like she really wanted the attention and the company of her husband all the time. And other aspects that you see, specifically meat aversion, even thinking of it. You see how there are only two remedies, and you see how strongly graphitis is over there. And how also you see how beautifully her menstrual history symptoms are covered. So she was not somebody like a Platina who was showing a tantrum, or she was not somebody like a Lachesis who was being, getting affected or planning or plotting. No, it was simple. She was not able to conceive, and it had irritated to her, and these irritability over trifles and feeling choked and suffocated was expressed in all her way. In a way, she kept brooding about it, and she felt very sad about it. So you have to complete the case in three aspects: the mind state, the physical characteristics, and the presenting symptom, which is the menses. And when you see all three in section wise, you see that this remedy beautifully comes. I'll just share with you what I went ahead and also I read in the Materia Medica, so that you know what confirmed graphitis for me before giving it. So yes, she was also given graphitis 1M followed by 0/1. I saw a lot of you all asking questions why 0/1 and what is the base of potency. We'll cover all of that later. So in this case, when you read from Phatak, you see great aversion to caution. Yes, I forgot to take this in the repertory sheet. But like I said, that because of all of this, she had developed this great aversion to even have intercourse with the husband. If you see menses, scanty, pale, late, irregular, painful, all the symptoms which she had expressed right from her childhood. Also, you see that the left ovary, and in her case also, if you see the ovarian, both were bulky, but from the 16 years, the left was having a large cyst. If you read from Dr. Shankar in Soul of Remedy, he explains such people can never remain calm. They have to be excited in order to survive. Like these trifles that you talk about, something or the other is there. Oh, husband ne ye bola, usne ye bola. Oh, that one had said. And what in turn she wanted? She just wanted the husband's company all the time, full attention from the husband. If you read from Murphy, again it says how miserable and unhappy, obstinate, irritable and fretful, despair over trifles. What I remember graphitis in the main way is trifles. Kuch bhi choti cheez can provoke them, can affect them. So I had given a graphitis 1M is 1M. Normally, how I give is graphite is 1M, 4 pills once a week, and LM is on a daily basis. They take the powder, dissolve it in a liter of bottle, and have one spoon from it every night. They shake it and have 1 spoon from it every night. So that's how it goes. There's a question, suffocated feeling in the throat. Yes, with a lot of graphitis patient, they feel like even if they're in a plane travel or something, they get very, very scared. They need to hold on to someone. They feel suffocated. So yes, definitely that is again a confirmatory thing for graphitis. So this is how the case was analyzed. And like I already showed you the reports, how beautifully, you saw that she conceived. And in 2017, I cannot express to you when I think she delivered the child after 7 years. I feel a part of the family. I feel a part of that child whenever I see her. Like obviously, she's the child is also my patient now, and the family has a lot of trust. But whenever I see that child, I really feel that you can't imagine. For us, it's a patient with infertility, like I said, a case with infertility. But this entire girl's life revolved around that. Entire life, entire story, entire feeling, emotion. Maybe after a point, either she would have really, her husband would have really left her, or maybe she would have really ran away. We don't know. But and she's one of, how hyper I saw her. She completely changed after the child. She was like, the way she took care of the child. She's a beautiful mother, and she's wonderfully doing her things. But there's something interesting in this case which I would like to share. So before coming to yeah. So what happened is, she delivered the baby in 2017. Baby was healthy. Both of them were fine. She used to come on and off to meet me, etc. But what happened later is, in 2019 end, she again tried to conceive. She wanted a second child. And again, a lot of family from the pressure. I remember one fine day, her mother called me, will she have a second child, or will we have to wait for 7 more years to have? And she, what we advise her is, things are fine with you. You can go ahead with normal, you can try to conceive, and you can use the ovulation period, etc. But what was interesting is, she couldn't conceive again. And on investigation, again, one of her cysts had an ovary. We called her for investigations. I took a retake. I gave a remedy. I still don't know whether my remedy helped or what helped. And I told her, come after 2 weeks and see me. And after 2 weeks, I remember she wanted to come a little before that, or I had no appointment. She's like, I just want to meet you for 5 minutes. I said, okay. And the elder child who she was her baby girl, she came and gave me a chocolate. And within 2 weeks, she could conceive again, and she was pregnant again. Yes, the dose of the medicine that I had given this time was not graphitis, though. We can take that up later of what happened second. But just 15 days. I tell her a lot of times that I don't know whether my medicines helped, or it was, just your positivity and your approach towards it. And like you see, I have attached the reports. This was the left ovarian cyst, and she's currently pregnant, expecting her next child on 10th August 2020. And you can imagine the amount of belief that this family develops on homeopathy and the system. Like, I can tell you the name of the remedy that she got second time, but that's entirely a different case, because a lot of things about her changed. But it was very beautiful to see how, every time that she tried to conceive, what really helped her was the homeopathic medications. I have a small summary which I had asked her sister to send me a few days back, as I wanted to share with you all. And her sister is a homeopathic doctor. So she said that my sister had come to you when, now she's currently 34-year-old, but she had irregular menses right since puberty. She was diagnosed with PCOS even before marriage, had taken treatment, allopathy and homeopathy. She had taken Naja, she had taken Calcarea salve, she had taken Pulsatilla, even laparoscopy was done, but she could not conceive for 7 years. She suffered from TB and even ectopic pregnancy. One of her tube had obstruction, and even she had a large ovarian cyst. So what I missed telling you is, the ectopic pregnancy which she had, that was the second ectopic pregnancy. The first one, even before she came to us, she had an ectopic pregnancy, and I said a laparoscopy was done. After treatment, first thing, her menstrual cycle became regular, the PCOS was okay, and she delivered a healthy child in 2017 after 7 years of marriage. Last year, when she could again not conceive, there was a cyst, and again 15 days of medicine, and now she's expecting her baby to arrive in August 2020. They're very, very helpful and grateful. They're happy and grateful. And I cannot express to you how I feel about, when I meet this family. I don't feel my medicine help, but whatever helped them means in the second time, whatever helped them. To see that lady who was almost like you saw trifles and husband is doing this, husband, you can't imagine now. She's a very non-complaining, non-angry, non-irritable person. So maybe her constitution was not graphitis, but that time, what her mind state was, that time, what she had become, that was graphitis. Trifles irritated her. That made her graphitis. So even when she was trying to conceive, imagine the mind state that she had even when she was having intercourse. It was just like a mechanical procedure. I have to deliver a child. And this is how once you take a case very well, this is how you can really help people. And like I said, my topic was about women's health. It's not only about gynecological or PCOS. Skin plays a very important role. This is a case of a lady who had so many warts, and you can see how totally it became fine. This is another case of thyroid, which is again seen in women. So you can see that her TSH was 171 and it became 5.72. But what is interesting is the time period. This was Feb 2018 and this is June 2018. So you can see how beautifully, once you get the characteristic symptoms, it can help. Another case of, again, she had very high testosterone leading to infertility. And you can see the testosterone levels being high. And again, she conceived. If you want to see this particular lecture, if you put PCOS and my name, you'll find it on YouTube. And you can see the explanation of what remedy was given and how it helped her. And that was the message from the second patient, but you can go through that video anyways. So that's what you have to do. Just few basics: confidentiality, know the person well, find characteristics at all level, and you can do wonders. I believe out of all the cases, like I said, this topic is very special to me because you can do wonder. You can do really wonder in these cases. I believe there are some questions coming up, but we have another speaker waiting. So I will definitely come up with this questions and we'll take them up. I think about tuberculosis, a lot of questions are coming. We'll definitely come and address them. That's my number and contact details. I would really like to hear from you all, and I would really encourage all of you, all young homeopaths out there, and all specifically women homeopaths, that try to reach out to these people and with full confidence try to help them. Somewhere, some people feel more connectivity with females, some may feel with male, but use it to your best. And that's all I have to say for today. So I would like to hand over to speaker.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for such a wonderful session, and it was really informative and very interesting to discuss about women problems with you. So we have our next speaker. We'll be discussing the question and answers, whatever doubts and queries people have. We'll be discussing in the end.